Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World, and joining me tonight for a lively debate is Bill Etheridge, former UKIP MEP, and back has left in the corner for about the 10th time. We've got Matthew Stadland, thanks. He's a bit of a secret Tory, but he's not let on to that yet. Listen, ECHR guys this week poking their long noses into our business once again. They are demanding that we do more on climate change and saying it's a breach of our human rights, complaining. I think a bunch of old ladies went over from Switzerland, complaining about heat waves. Looking at the weather out there, I think we could do a bit of a heat wave at the moment. We'll give our tourist industry a boost, especially in places like Skegness, where I go for my holidays. But Bill, is this a step too far? Should they butt out and should we leave the ECHR?
We should have left the ECHR years ago. The whole concept is about keeping a shared space of European laws and values. We voted for Brexit. Now, if you say to the people in the street, we voted for Brexit, but we're going to maintain a shared space of European laws and values, they say, what are you talking about? What's the whole point of it? And when you get judges in place who are appointed by the elites, and you put them into a lovely sounding thing, European Court of Human Rights. It sounds fluffy, but actually it's polishing a turd. The reality is they are there to suppress the wishes and the views of democratically elected governments and people. We should have nothing to do with it, and any human rights we need in this country, we can do our own Bill of Rights.
There we go, Matthew. Own Bill of Rights, which covers pretty much everything that's in the ECHR. Why can't we do that?
Well, your former boss, Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, he's been describing the ECHR as a foreign court. It's not, it's an international court. And I'm actually proud, as a proud Brit myself.
Well, it is a foreign court.
No, it's an international court.
In Strasbourg, that's in a foreign country.
It's an international court. We subscribe to it. We help one of our greatest Britons of all time.
Well, Winston Churchill.
But it's true, isn't it? It might be painful.
This is like 80 years ago, Matthew.
It might be painful for you to recognise, but actually Winston Churchill was instrumental in the setting up of this court. Now, why should we stay a part of this convention? I think we should stay a part of it because it helps to protect us against the excesses of our own government. It protects the rights to liberty, to freedom of thought, to freedom of speech,
Have you been
the
to
freedom
Scotland
of
lately?
life. It's there to protect fair and free elections. What is not to like about that?
Listen, I'm sorry, Matthew, but it's a lot of nonsense. Freedom of thought. Have you been to Scotland in this past week when it had about 5,000?
Well, you could take the Scottish government to court then, couldn't you? You could go to the ECHR and defend your own rights, Lee. That's the point.
I wonder whose side they'd be on.
Well, we'll have to wait
Come on,
and see.
Bill. Come on, Bill. You've got to come back on that.
I do need to. Yeah, Churchill was involved in it, but it was 80 years ago. I think he would be spinning like a top and taking off from his grave if he knew what it was about now. And you say protecting us from the excesses of our own government. We can vote for our own government. Now, yeah, we do. Our government plays a part in putting these people in place as judges. Yeah. But this is the elite and establishment putting people in place to protect their values. If we want to vote for something, why can't we vote for something?
Bill, you say these judges, are these qualified judges?
Well, they're qualified to be politically correct and they've got the right views and they pass the criteria of...
Come on, guys, come on. This is a bit like a pub conversation. I know we're in a pub. Let's be serious. Let's be serious for a moment. I don't know what either of you two guys, so I imagine you see yourselves as patriotic. I'm certainly patriotic. I don't know what it is that you guys like about Belarus or Putin in Russia.
Here we go.
Do we? Well, everything I come up with, you say, oh, here we go. Australia isn't in Europe, Lee.
Exactly.
The point about Putin and the point about Belarus is they are in Europe. And they are the countries that are not signed up to the ECHR. We don't want to become a state like those guys. We don't want to side with them.
Are you genuinely saying, Matthew, that we could not have our own Bill of Rights and reform the Human Rights Act so it is much better and stronger and goes further than the ECHR?
This is about...
Are we not capable of doing that in that place over there?
I'm sure we are capable. This is to protect us against our own government if it infringes on our rights. You could have a democratically elected government that
That's
does
the key word,
terrible...
Matthew, democratically elected.
Of course, and I'm a Democrat, and I could understand, by the way, although I voted...
But you're not a Democrat.
Well, hang on. Although I voted to remain, I understood the point about the remoteness of European democracy. I understood that was a reasonable argument, in my view, for leaving the EU. But the point is, you can have a democracy that actually then goes after minorities and in an illegal way. And this ECHR business is what helps to protect us in those circumstances. It's actually really important.
So this court is to protect us from our own mistakes of voting for our choice of government.
Let's imagine our government
us from our own view.
But let's take this seriously. It's a serious point. I'm half Jewish, right? Let's say that we had a democratically elected government that went after Jews. In those circumstances, the ECHR would help to protect me as a Jewish person. Let's say they went after people from Nottingham. Yeah. You could say, well, it's democratically elected, so it should. The ECHR is an important international checks and balance system on that.
In that fluffy world that you live in, Matthew, that might be all well and good, but the ECHR are not doing much to protect the Jewish people that are feeling threatened and intimidated on Parliament Square when we have these vile, nasty, these pro-Palestinian marches. What are the ECHR doing then?
The police are there to protect these people. Well, of course they are. They're there to protect and I would be the first to say, if the police or individual police officers get it wrongly, then I would condemn them. But I don't think it's for the ECHR to come and tell our police exactly how to do that.
It's for the ECHR to tell us and Switzerland, for example, that we're not pursuing climate change agendas rapidly enough because they think we're victimising our own people. Have they taken into account that this climate change agenda, this net zero madness, will actually plunge hundreds of thousands of people into poverty? How about the human rights of those people?
I could understand
they are
the
sticking to the agenda of the elite.
I could understand the frustrations of the feeling of overreach on the part of the ECHR. And no institution is perfect. You say this climate change nonsense. The overwhelming majority of international scientific opinion is that climate change is real. Why are you guys groaning? Let's be adult about this.
When you say follow, we've heard this, follow the science. We heard this for the last few years. Follow who funds the science is far more important. A scientist, much like anyone else, will come up with a conclusion based around who funds them.
So you think international science is corrupt, do you?
I think anything that has large amounts of money going
Where's your
might be
evidence?
swayed.
What report are you showing me that international science is corrupt and that they are leading us into some sort of net zero conspiracy which is designed to make poorer people poorer? Come on, guys.
It's designed to make rich people richer.
Well, let me chip in here. I feel a little bit isolated here, Bill. If we're going to talk about net zero, Matthew, let's talk about some facts. And I've said it before on this show. If this country of ours sunk into the sea tonight, and everything went out, the lights went out, everything closed down, it would not make a blind bit of difference to this planet in carbon emissions.
None
less
whatsoever.
than 1%. It wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. So we've got these unelected officials, and they are unelected, dictating to us in this country. And can you understand, Matthew, why, after we've left the European Union, when we get unelected officials telling us what to do, why people in places like Ashfield, where I represent, are absolutely furious?
Let me explain to you. So you've got a drug dealer down the corner of the road, and I've got no time for drug dealers. And the drug dealer says, well, I might as well carry on selling my drugs, because if I don't sell the drugs, someone else is going to sell the drugs. The point is, how can we possibly, and we should be leaders in the world, because we are a great country, we've got a great history, we've got the 6th biggest economy or whatever it is in the world. We actually still do have something of an international reputation. How can we possibly go and lobby China and India and elsewhere and say you've got to be doing more on climate change if we throw our own climate change goals out the window? We've got to stand up and be grown up.
Do you think they take any notice when we lobby them? When we tell them, by the way, we had our own fantastic industrial era that got us great standards of living. By the way, you emerging nations, your economy,
we could put our heads in the sand.
It's very naughty.
Look, we can put our heads in the sand and pretend climate change isn't real, that it's all a hoax and we can't make any impact. We could do that, and the people who will suffer are our children, our grandchildren, and so forth.
But no one says climate change isn't real.
It is
it's
real,
the amount of man-made climate.
Of course it is, because we put cows in the fields that give off this methane when they fart. We have carbon emissions that are through the roof around the world. We know that science tells us this is having an impact on the climate. Lee, you started off with a joke, and this isn't a laughing matter actually. You said, oh, well, we could do with a bit of climate change because it's not very hot outside the window. Come on, you know that is not about climate change. You might have an individual period of cooler weather or whatever it is. That doesn't mean the facts aren't staring us in the face. The world is getting warmer and we are contributing.
So it's raining outside, Bill. That's the cows' fault.
Absolutely.
So let's blame all the moo cows up and down the country.
Better stop eating beef, haven't we?
Yeah, stop eating beef. Shall we do that as well, Matthew?
Well, I think it would be a good idea if we ate a lot less beef. Do I still eat beef? Yes. Should I eat less beef? Yes.
Bill, Matthew, thanks for a lively debate.